So when we started working on Edumont school, so this was located in Nabha, and we have already worked with one of their friend to make when we did Cambridge school, because the building block, because the initial plan what they were to do is around 30,000 square foot, which was so we idea was to create a long block where we could show most of the frontage to the road. That was this thing, and separate buildings for the academic block, and separate buildings for the admin block. And for the admin block, we wanted to create an interesting experience. So the building actually moves backwards to create a very strong portals in form of columns, and then it leads to the porch. And once you get into the porch, you actually enter, and then you see this double-light reception, which has this kind of a small indoor open air theater which goes up to the first floor. So this is the main highway that goes to which goes to Nabha and Patiala. So the idea was, because this was the only access we have was on one side, so we used this access, and we wanted to create an invitation to the entrance of the school from the porch in this direction. So this building has actually been pushed back, and to create a illusion of a longer facade, because when you look at this building this way, or you look at a building which was straight, this will look and give you an illusion of as if it is much longer than what it is, and the staggering of this block makes it look even longer. So this was a idea where we would want to break it up, and because we were looking at the program with the number of programs, the thing was we wanted to create a block which was having a classrooms grid, which were almost 3 of the blocks of the 4 parts of the building in a classroom grid, and want to playful for one of the grid which could actually house different objects other than classrooms and labs on the front of the building. And when we were doing this project, we actually we wanted to have in the landscape area, because it's a school, so this was the main entrance to the student block. So we wanted to create an interesting element of play area around this region. So the idea is to, instead of having a reception which was just an introduction to any building, but here it was more about a reception where it could be an experience of people actually living, sitting there. It could have sitting, and it could have many different things possible around that place. And the block where the students are has a separate entrance, and that goes inside, and we have a block, the classrooms that have been laid optimally as per the sun direction and the solar heat gain factor considering that. So we used different grids. One grid was supposed to be the classroom block, and the front grid, almost like the front half of the building in the front block actually has the classrooms, and the half of the building on the front has a variable grid which is used for libraries, multifunction areas, which has a different kind of a form making and a grid, which balances out overall, and it creates a very strong invitation to the entire building and forms something that becomes very interesting and bold. And here also it was very important for us to see how the building is approached, how it is visible from the road, and in the end the whole experience was so interesting. Now it has been one of the most reputed and renowned schools in the region, which has more than 1300 students for the last 8 to 10 years and consistently growing strong. So this has been a great learning experience of how working with educators and how we could create schools that last for decades and times to come. So this part of where it actually had the classrooms, which were a standard grid, and this side it was having an incremental grid and a standard grid. In this incremental grid we housed, when we enter the reception, we enter into double-light space where we have this expanding steps on one side where you can actually take them to go to the next level, and this also forms an additional seating or a kind of a gathering space for the school, and it has a multi-purpose functionality. and then we have the other administrative functions positioned around in this particular region. And then we move forward, then here we have the entire block for the classrooms for the children, which has an elevator for people with different ability, and then a staircase here. So when we go to the above floor, as we can see, all of this becomes classrooms again. And the front part of it has a terrace, which is the double height porch, and here we have a staff utility room. And above this we actually have this space which is being used like library, where we have this part of it has been used as the main lab and the library of the school, where it has an incremental depth, and rest all things again stay in the similar way. So the whole idea was to actually create this kind of front grid which is expanding, and the play areas are spread around the school, which forms as the play areas are scheduled at the behind part of the school, and there was space left for future expansion. And in the end, Edumont was an experiment for a small footprint school, where with a footprint of around 30 to 40,000 in the main building, how you could create a lasting and a scalable school where it could have all the functions that are needed.